The official notice was pinned to the community board by the library entrance. A crisp, offensively white sheet of paper that radiated pure bureaucratic evil. It was printed in the Royal Chancery's most severe typeface, a font called grave obligation serif, normally reserved for tax increases and formal declarations of war, and someone had clearly enjoyed using it. Violet Reed read it once, then twice, because her brain, a meticulous instrument she had spent 25 years calibrating, refused to process the specific arrangement of words. Her heart, however, had already understood. It had plummeted somewhere in the vicinity of her sensible, rubber-soled shoes. By royal decree, the notice proclaimed, the importation, circulation, and possession of the following literary works is hereby prohibited pending a full review by the Council of Elders on the grounds of cultural degradation. Below this tyrannical preamble was a short list. At the very top, staring back at her like a personal insult delivered via government stationery, were 2 words. The Midnight Rose. My book, Violet thought, and a wave of incandescent fury swept away the initial shock with impressive efficiency. My comfort read, the one with the brooding duke and the surprisingly competent botanist heroine, and the entire chapter where they huddle for warmth in a crumbling potting shed because of a storm that was, meteorologically speaking, very convenient. They banned the potting shed chapter. They looked at that tender, beautifully written potting shed chapter and said, cultural degradation. Filed, said the quieter, more animal part of her mind, the part that catalogued the world in a different register, organized not by Dewey Decimal, but by threat, scent, and territorial significance. Filed under provocation, unprovoked. Cross-referenced with grounds for a small situation. How small? Her human self asked. It will make the news, her wolf said calmly. Shelf it. We will address it systematically. Unbelievable, said a voice beside her. Finian Vance. Finn to everyone, head of pack gossip infrastructure, to those who understood his true function, was squinting at the notice. Cultural degradation? It's a romance novel. The only thing it degrades is a productive Saturday morning. It's Aldous Crew, Violet said, her voice at the particular quiet register that meant she was genuinely furious rather than performatively so. Has to be. 100% Aldous, Finn nodded gravely. My cousin's mate's brother works in the castle kitchens. Says Crew's been on a campaign about frivolous human sentimentality rotting the pack's moral fiber from the inside out. He paused. He also apparently sends his soup back every single time, on the grounds that it is too warm. The man is constitutionally opposed to comfort. Violet stared at the list. 4 other titles beneath The Midnight Rose. All of them hers. All of them good. A Pirate's Pledge, The Viscount's Vow, Love in the Time of Lycanthropy, The Governess's Gambit. Each one an act of careful, considered storytelling, banned by a man who presumably considered feeling things a personal failing. Aldous Crew, her wolf noted, in the mild tone it reserved for serious matters. Filed under loud and unnecessary, pending cross-reference to problems we will solve with our organizational skills rather than our teeth, probably. She snatched the notice off the board. King Owen signed this, she said. King Owen signs everything Aldous puts in front of him, Finn said, with the weary accuracy of a man who had been paying attention. 2 years on the throne, and I'm not sure he's made a single independent decision that wasn't about border defense. Aldous runs the domestic policy. Owen runs the wars. It's a whole arrangement. Violet looked at the notice one more time. Then she folded it precisely in half, tucked it into her cardigan pocket, and walked back into the library. A plan was forming. It was a terrible plan. The kind that, if discovered, would result in a very unpleasant conversation with someone wearing a crown. but it was deeply satisfying in its architecture. And she was a librarian. Her entire professional existence was logistics. Knowing where things were, how they moved, who handled them, and when. King Owen Severin received a towering stack of reading material in his private study every single evening. Reports, treaties, border surveys, agricultural proposals, requests from lesser nobles who wanted things. Finn's kitchen contact had once described it as a fire hazard in document form. Violet knew the cart it arrived on. She knew which footman delivered it, and she knew he took a 5-minute break in the East Corridor at 20 minutes past the hour, because she had spent years of after hours cataloging, developing a precise mental map of the castle's human traffic patterns. She was going to put the Midnight Rose in that stack, right between something boring enough that no one would notice. And she was going to make the King of the Severin pack read it, and then she was going to make him like it. Good plan, her wolf said. Efficient, minimal collateral. Thank you, Violet thought. I have concerns about the execution, her wolf added. I have concerns about the execution too, Violet agreed. We're doing it anyway. Her wolf went quiet in the way that meant, acceptable, proceed. That evening, after the library had closed and the last patron had been gently but firmly removed from the periodicals section, Violet wrapped her personal copy of The Midnight Rose in plain brown paper, nondescript, bureaucratic, innocent. Its cover was soft with wear. The spine was creased at the best parts. She found the cart at 22 minutes past the hour, right where she'd known it would be, temporarily abandoned in the East Service Corridor. Her heart was doing something undignified against her ribs. She scanned the corridor, empty. With the speed and precision of someone who had once reshelved the entire history section, 3,000 volumes, in under 2 hours, she slid the brown paper package into the middle of the stack, nestled between a report on beet crop yields and a border dispute with the Blackwood pack. It looked like just another file. It was a declaration of war. She retreated into the library's shadows, pressed her back against the archive door, and waited for her heart rate to return to something medically acceptable. Mission complete, her wolf noted. No witnesses. The beat report was an inspired choice. It will not be read first. Violet exhaled. I know. We are very good at this. We really are, Violet agreed, and went home. A week passed, the longest week of Violet's professional life, which had contained several very long weeks involving a misfiled census from 1887 that had caused enormous jurisdictional confusion. Every time a royal guard walked past the library windows, she was convinced they were coming for her. Every official-looking piece of parchment made her break out in a cold sweat. She reorganized the Geological Survey archives, twice, and alphabetized a shelf that was already in perfect order, which Finn noticed. You're alphabetizing things that are already alphabetized, he said on day 4, with the careful tone of someone addressing a person who might be experiencing a crisis. No. The shelf is in perfect order, Violet. It can be more perfect. That's not... He stopped. Do you want to talk about whatever is happening? No. Right. He backed away slowly. He is filed under perceptive, her wolf said. We should be more careful. We are always careful, Violet said. We alphabetized an alphabetized shelf, her wolf said mildly. This does not read as careful. This reads as what the humans call a tell. On the 8th day, a new notice appeared on the community board, also in grave obligation serif. But the words this time were different. By royal decree, it read, the previous prohibition on the work titled The Midnight Rose is hereby lifted. The Council's review found no substantive grounds for its continued censure. We apologize for the inconvenience. Violet read it 5 times. Then she allowed herself a small, private smile and tucked it away immediately. He'd read it. The king of the Severin pack, the stern alpha with the jawline carved from mountain stone, had read The Midnight Rose. And it had worked. Her wolf said nothing for a moment. Then, the potting shed chapter. Yes, Violet thought. Him specifically. Her wolf filed something. The sound of the filing was oddly careful, like something being placed in a new category that didn't quite have a name yet. She looked at the remaining 4 titles on the original band list. She looked at the cart schedule she had memorized. Well, she thought, while we're here. A pirate's pledge went in the following night. 10 days later, its ban was lifted. The Viscount's vow took a week. Love in the Time of Lycanthropy, a bit on the nose as a title, she'd always thought, but the execution was extraordinary, took 5 days, which said something either about its quality or Owen's reading speed. Finn's Kitchen Intelligence Network was in a state of high excitement. He's different, Finn reported, materializing at her elbow while she was processing a new acquisition of bog iron maps. The staff are talking, he hummed, in a corridor, just hummed, apparently to himself while walking to a council meeting. One of the footmen nearly dropped a tray. People hum, Violet said, turning a map right side up. Not Owen. Owen walks through corridors like a man calculating the structural load-bearing capacity of the architecture. Finn leaned closer. And yesterday he asked the head gardener whether the castle had any particularly melancholic-looking roses. Violet kept her face carefully neutral. She knew exactly what that meant. There was a scene in The Midnight Rose, midpoint of the second act, where the Duke stood in his neglected greenhouse and realized for the first time that he had been letting beautiful things die because he was afraid of caring about them. He read it, her wolf said. He read it, Violet agreed. Her wolf filed something again, in that same careful new category, then filed it again under something else. Then, unusually, appeared to leave it sitting out, unshelved, on top of everything. This is fine, her wolf said. It sounded like it was trying to convince itself. The 10th book was The Governess's Gambit, a masterpiece. She had been getting confident, perhaps too confident. She chose a riskier corridor, a busier time. The cart was only unattended for a moment. She moved quickly, the brown paper package already in hand, reaching for the gap between the annual budget review and a request for a new mill in the Northern District. A hand closed around her wrist. Not harsh, firm, absolute, and warm, in a way that sent something like electricity directly up her arm and into her better judgment, which promptly went offline. She froze, looked up. King Owen Severin was standing in the service corridor in a plain dark tunic and trousers, watching her. No formal robes, no crown. Just a very large, very still man, with gold eyes she had only ever seen from a careful distance. Those eyes, up close, were doing something. There was a quality to the stillness behind them, not blank, but deliberate. Precisely the way a predator goes still, not because it has stopped thinking, but because it has started thinking about you specifically. It lasted 1 beat, then smoothed back to controlled. But she'd seen it. Her wolf, who indexed every cent that entered the library with meticulous cross-referencing, ran a scan. Pine, her wolf said, in a tone that was utterly unlike its usual filing voice. And leather. And something that makes our... Wait, what is this? This does not go anywhere. This belongs in every category simultaneously. This is a system. Her brain, which had served her admirably for 25 years, produced exactly 1 coherent sentence. Oh, that's inconvenient. I was, she began, with the confidence of someone without a plan, restocking the royal paperwork cart with knowledge. Owen looked at the brown paper package in her other hand, then back at her face. A slow, profound something crossed his expression. Not anger, the opposite of anger, which was somehow more alarming. "It's you," he said. Low, quiet, not a question. In the deeper register of his mind, the part that tracked exits before his brain registered the room, that had already catalogued every person in the corridor and dismissed all of them as irrelevant before his eyes had finished moving, something went very still. "She smells like old books and chamomile," his wolf said, in a voice of uncharacteristic quiet. "And something else. Something that is… Owen thought. His wolf did not elaborate. It simply went extremely still in a way it had never done for a threat, which meant it wasn't filing her as a threat, which meant it was filing her as something else, and Owen suddenly, urgently, did not want to know what category that was. Violet's shoulders dropped in defeat. "Yes," she said. She held up the book. "These are good books. They don't deserve to be banned." His gaze moved to the package, then back to her. The corner of his mouth moved. "I know," he said. "I've read them all." Silence. "You… what?" The midnight rose. He released her wrist. She noticed the absence of his hand's warmth immediately and filed it under "noted" inconveniently, and began ticking titles off on his fingers. The Duke was melodramatic, but the potting shed scene was surprisingly tender. A Pirate's Pledge. Captain Eva was a significantly better strategist than Admiral Thorne. He deserved to have his ship stolen. Love in the Time of Lycanthropy felt a bit close to home. The Viscount's Vow I finished in one sitting. He paused. I may have cancelled a morning briefing to finish the Viscount's Vow. "She is looking at us," his wolf noted, with something approaching reverence. "She is deciding something. Do not move. Do not speak unnecessarily. Let her decide." "Is this a tactical assessment?" Owen asked. "This is a different kind of assessment," his wolf said, with the mild tone it used for things it considered obvious. "Continue." "Then why did you ban them?" Violet managed. "I didn't, really." Owen said it flatly, without defense. "Aldous prepares the decrees, I sign them. He handles the cultural policy, I handle the border disputes, and the 600 things that are apparently always on fire simultaneously." He glanced at his hands. "I never read them, the decrees, not the cultural ones. I just signed." "And then you read the books." "And then I read the books." He looked back at her, and for just a moment his control slipped. His eyes went fully, steadily gold, and his hand at his side curled slightly, and then he had it back. "You have excellent taste, Ms. Reed." Her chin came up. "Obviously." This time it was a full smile. It broke over his face like a weather event, sudden and total. She laughed, a short sound, surprised out of her. "Oh," his wolf said, in a voice that was nothing like its usual register. It was very quiet. It was almost stunned. "Oh, that is… we would…" "Noted," Owen said firmly. His wolf went quiet, but not in the way of something shelved, in the way of something that had just made a decision and was waiting patiently to be acknowledged. "Recommend more?" Owen said. "That requires a proper discussion," Violet said, straightening. "About themes, character arcs, the function of narrative tension." "Obviously," he said, very lightly, and she was approximately 80% sure he was deploying her own word back at her on purpose. "The palace dining hall," she said. "Empty after the evening meal. Tomorrow night." "I'll be there," he said. "This is a professional consultation," she said. "Of course," he said, and she was approximately 90% sure he was lying. She walked back to the library with the careful, measured tread of a woman who was not thinking about pine and leather and something she couldn't file. Her wolf was sitting in the middle of her internal organizational system, surrounded by an index that had been, until approximately 11 minutes ago, immaculate. "This is fine," her wolf said again. It was becoming less convincing each time. The dining hall was vast and empty and mirror-polished, and Violet felt like a sparrow that had wandered into an eagle's entire aesthetic philosophy. Her best dress was dark blue linen. It was doing its competent best. Owen was already there, standing by the fire in dark green, looking like someone had written "romantically burdened king" in a character brief and then cast very well. "This is a professional consultation," Violet told herself. "He smells like pine again," her wolf noted helpfully. "I am aware. And leather. And that other thing. I said I am aware, I'm just noting it for the record." "There is no record for that," Violet thought with some desperation. "We do not have a category." Her wolf sat down in the middle of the uncategorized pile and looked very comfortable there. She put the Countess's conspiracy on the table like a business card. Owen crossed to hold her chair, and she sat down with the posture of a woman who was absolutely not flustered, and then he picked up his entire place setting, moved it one seat closer, and sat down next to her. The vast, empty table stretched before them. "Very close," her wolf observed. "Olfactory data, abundant. Cross-referencing, impossible. This is a system failure of historic proportions, and I am fine. This is fine." "So," Owen said, turning toward her with the full weight of his attention. "The Countess." Violet told him about the Countess. At first, she talked the way she catalogued, organized, referenced, efficient. But Owen listened with the kind of focus that made you feel like the most interesting thing in any room. And somewhere between the forged letters and the secret passageway, she stopped cataloging and started actually talking. He asked smart questions. He pushed back when he disagreed. "She is brilliant," his wolf said, with the tone of a tactical assessment and the feeling of something else entirely. "She is a librarian," Owen thought. She argued down a forged letter plot while simultaneously identifying its structural weaknesses and suggesting an alternate resolution, his wolf said. "In under 4 minutes. While eating chicken." "This is not relevant to the 'she is brilliant,'" his wolf repeated, patiently. "And she smells like chamomile and old paper. And something that makes our hands—" "Owen, our hands are doing the thing." Owen looked at his hands. One of them had moved, almost imperceptibly, across the table. He moved it back, smoothly, without comment. "Excellent recovery," his wolf said. No one noticed. "I noticed," Owen thought. "Yes," his wolf agreed. "We did." "The Earl's entire problem," Owen said, gesturing with his fork, "is that he can't see solutions that don't look like the solutions he already knows. He's trapped by precedent." Violet paused, a piece of bread halfway to her mouth. He wasn't just talking about the Earl. She could see it in the slight tightening around his eyes, the weight of something personal behind the observation. "Sometimes," she said carefully, "it takes someone from outside the system to see the passageway." He went very still. Not the predator stillness, something quieter, more unguarded. He looked at her and she felt, with some alarm, that he was actually seeing her. Not the Omega librarian, not the useful background figure. Her. "Filed," her wolf said softly. "Under sees us. Category previously empty." "Yes," Owen said. "It does." The castle's plumbing produced a sound from somewhere within the walls that can only be described as the despairing moan of a large dying animal. Violet startled. "What?" "The ghost of my great-great-uncle Fergus," Owen said, with the resigned tone of a man who has given this explanation many times. He disapproved of indoor plumbing on principle. His spirit periodically voices its dissatisfaction. Or, more accurately, The pipes are 140 years old and have not accepted their situation. She laughed, a real one, surprised out of her. "Oh," his wolf said again, in that stunned, quiet voice. Owen stared at her. He had the look of someone encountering a sound they hadn't known they needed to hear. "We would burn the world for that sound," his wolf said simply. "This is becoming a problem." "It is not a problem," Owen thought. "It is an excellent problem," his wolf agreed. "Same time next week?" "Same time next week?" Owen said aloud. "Bring notes," Violet said, "on the Countess." "Obviously," he said, and she gathered her things and left before her face did anything she'd regret. His wolf watched her go with the patience of something that had already decided and was simply waiting for the human to catch up. "She filed us," it said. "What?" "Under sees us," his wolf said. "Category previously empty." "I could tell." Owen looked at the door she'd left through for a moment. Then he went to find his copy of the Countess's Conspiracy and started making notes. The book club became the fixed point of Violet's week. Every week she chose a book. Every week Owen devoured it. Their meetings in the dining hall grew longer, the conversation moving further from the page, the way good literary discussion always does, because the books were just doors into the actual rooms. There was the night they spent 2 hours arguing about whether the love interest in The Scoundrel's Secret was redeemable, or whether the heroine had simply gotten very good at rationalizing. Owen said redeemable. Violet said the text didn't support it. Owen said Violet was reading subtext too literally, which was an interesting thing to say to a professional reader, and Violet said Owen was projecting his preferred ending onto the craft of the novel, which was an interesting thing to say to a king. "She is arguing with us," his wolf noted, in the tone it used for things it found optimal. "She is doing it with footnotes, actual footnotes. She cited page numbers." "I am aware," Owen said. "We could listen to this indefinitely," his wolf said. "I am cataloging it. Do not interrupt her." They had both leaned forward over the table in the heat of it and ended up close enough that Violet's wolf ran an involuntary full-system scan and returned results that were entirely unhelpful. "Pine," her wolf said immediately, "and leather, and the— No, we are not doing this right now. We are in the middle of a professional consultation. Shelve it. Shelve it." The scent did not shelve. It sat in the middle of her index and radiated outward into every cross-reference she tried to make. "The subtext," Violet said, picking up the water glass and doing something useful with her hands, "is not ambiguous." "All subtext is ambiguous by definition," Owen said. "That's what makes it sub." She looked at him. He looked at her. The plumbing made a speculative noise. "Next week," Violet said. "The Highwayman's Heart." "I'll read it tonight," Owen said, and she believed him, because he always did. There was the night, 3 weeks in, when she arrived to find his copy of the Viscount's Vow open and annotated. In neat, precise handwriting, with margin notes, and on one page a single underlined passage with the word yes beside it. She happened to notice the passage was the one where the Viscount finally stopped performing invulnerability and simply asked for help. She didn't mention she'd seen it. She just sat down and started talking. "He reads it like it's a field manual," her wolf said, with something that was not quite admiration and was not quite affection, and was absolutely both. "He is taking notes on how to be a person." "I know," Violet said. "He was a person before." "I know," Violet said. "He just forgot." Her wolf was quiet for a moment. Then, "He is remembering." Filed under Our Doing. I am going to leave this one unshelved, just for a while." There was the night the kitchen sent up the wrong order, and they ended up with an enormous dish intended for a state dinner, 12 components, a sauce prepared over 3 days, and neither of them had any idea what to do with it. Owen had looked at it and looked at her and said, with complete deadpan seriousness, "I can ask them to take it back." And Violet had said, "Don't you dare." And they had worked through it together with the methodical dedication of two people who were absolutely not having a good time and were certainly not laughing. And at the end, Owen had leaned back and said he believed one component had been a truffle, and Violet had said she thought it might have been two truffles, and they had looked at each other, and the laughter had come out of them simultaneously, surprised and real. "She smells like chamomile and laughter tonight," his wolf said, in a voice that was quiet in a new way. "I know," Owen said. "I am creating a new filing category," his wolf said. "I did not previously require a category for this. I require one now." "What are you calling it?" His wolf considered. "Home," it said simply. Owen looked at the table, at the wreckage of the 12-component dish, at the woman across from him who was still slightly laughing, and said nothing at all. They argued about the highwayman's heart. Violet defended the heroine's decision to fake her own death as the only logical available move. Owen said it was the most catastrophically preventable disaster in the genre. Two intelligent adults had looked at a solvable problem and engineered a worse one through the simple mechanism of not saying a true thing. "That's the point," Violet said, leaning forward. "We watch them fail to communicate because they're afraid," Owen said, and his voice went quieter than she expected. She stopped. "Yes, because they're afraid." A beat. His eyes were on the table. She should have told him about the bounty, even if it was frightening, especially because it was. He looked up. The gold was at the edge of his eyes again, not fully there, but present, unmistakable. Telling the truth is the more vulnerable thing. Disappearing is easier, even if you believe you're doing it for someone else. "He is not talking about the book," her wolf said. "I know," Violet said. "He is talking about himself. He is telling us something. I know." "We should respond with something true," her wolf said. "Something real. The silence as weapon doesn't work here. He's not an irrelevant alpha trying to dominate. He is filed somewhere I don't have a label for, and I think we should tell him something true." Violet put her hand on his arm. She'd meant it as punctuation. She did it with Finn when she was making a point. But the moment her palm registered solid, warm muscle through the fabric of his tunic, everything in her went very quiet and very alert. Owen went completely still, the predator stillness, absolute and total. His eyes went fully gold. "She smells like old books and chamomile and something that makes our hands—" "Owen," his wolf said, in a voice of terrifying calm. "Owen, our hands." "I see it," Owen said. "Do not move the hand," his wolf said. "I know you want to reach for her. Do not move the hand. She is deciding something. Let her decide." Violet withdrew her hand, deliberately, calmly, as if she had intended to. "She should have told him," Violet said. "You're right." "I usually am," Owen said, and his voice was not quite steady. "About other people's fictional problems." "The self-awareness is encouraging," Violet said, and reached for her book, and they both looked at it, and neither of them said anything else about it that night. She walked home through the castle corridors, thinking about the exact warmth of his arm through his sleeve. Her wolf was sitting in the ruins of the scent index, surrounded by uncategorized files, looking entirely unrepentant. "This is a system failure," Violet told it. "Yes," her wolf agreed cheerfully, "the most interesting kind." Owen, meanwhile, walked back to his study and sat in his chair for a long time without reading anything. "Our hand," his wolf said. "Our hand," Owen agreed. "I was not going to move it," his wolf said. "I know." "I was considering creating a situation," his wolf said. "A very small one. Just Aldous Crew's favorite chair. Nothing structural. But I did not, because she was deciding something, and I wanted her to decide it herself." "That was the right call," Owen said. His wolf settled. We will wait, it said. We are very good at waiting. They always came back the following week, both of them, every time. Finn observed all of this with the patient delight of a man who was certain about the ending. You're humming, he told Violet on a Tuesday while she was cataloging a new shipment of agricultural histories. I don't hum. 3 weeks, Finn said, very consistent. Chapter 12 of The Midnight Rose. It's not. He came in yesterday, Finn said, with careful neutrality. While you were in the archives, returned a book, browsed the new acquisitions for 20 minutes, asked me if we had anything by the author of A Pirate's Pledge. I told him we had 3 other titles. He took all 3. Violet put down her catalog card. He could have sent a footman, she said. Yes, Finn agreed. He could have. She went back to the archives, and if she was humming the pianoforte tune from Chapter 12, she was at least doing it quietly. He came in, her wolf said, with the satisfied air of an archivist whose filing system has just been proven correct. He came in himself. I know, Violet said. Filed, her wolf said, and for once the sound of it was not organizational. It was soft. It was careful. It was like placing something precious somewhere it wouldn't be damaged. It was the night of the Feast of the Full Moon, the great hall loud and warm and full, when Aldous crew decided to act. Violet and Owen were standing near the hearth, talking, not touching, but in the specific proximity that people notice, the distance that has become deliberate rather than accidental. She was telling him about the ending of the governess's gambit when she saw, over his shoulder, Crew step up onto the dais. Owen followed her gaze. She felt him go still beside her. 3 threats, his wolf said immediately, running its standard scan. The beta by the east door, the rogue near the window who has been watching the perimeter for 11 minutes, and Crew is on the dais. This is deliberate. This is a prepared action. He has a scroll. He has a scroll, Owen confirmed internally. This is going to be a situation, his wolf said, with the mild tone that meant it was prepared to make it considerably worse. What are your instructions? Stand down, Owen said, for now. Noted. Standing by. If he looks at her the way he's currently looking at her, for more than 30 additional seconds, I am creating a small situation. How small? I am renegotiating the definition of small, his wolf said serenely. Crew called for silence. He got it. Brothers and sisters of the Severin pack, Crew began, there is a cancer in our midst, not from without, from within. Owen's hand, resting at his side, closed slowly into a fist. Our king, in his grief, has been led astray. Crew pointed, not at Owen, at Violet. By her. An Omega librarian who has used foreign sentiment to cloud the Alpha's judgment. Violet felt the blood leave her face in one clean rush. Every eye in the room. He is pointing at us, her wolf said, in a voice stripped of all filing apparatus. Just that, direct and clear. He is, Violet agreed. We are going to respond, her wolf said. Not with our teeth, with our footnotes. But we are going to respond. There is an ancient law, Crew continued, producing the scroll. Article 7, Section 3 of the Unification Codex. She who would use foreign influence to sway the heart of the Alpha from his sacred duty commits an act of high treason. He let the word hang. The punishment is exile. The hall erupted. This is madness! Owen's voice cut through the noise. His Alpha presence filled the room, and his eyes were fully gold, both of them steady and bright. The wolf not hidden at all. She has done nothing. Crew smiled thinly. Hasn't she? You have neglected your reports. You have reversed sound policy on the basis of sentiment. You have spent your evenings reading romantic fiction, and your mornings apparently thinking about roses. His cold gaze settled on Violet. She is the cause. She has weakened you. Situation assessment. Critical, his wolf said, with terrifying calm. Proposed response. Remove his ability to speak. Methodology. Small. Definition of small. Negotiable. Your instructions? Stand down, Owen said. She's going to say something. His wolf paused. How do you know? Because I know her, Owen said. His wolf went quiet. Then, in a voice almost too quiet to register, yes, we do. Violet stepped forward. You're wrong, she said. Crew turned to her with the expression of a man encountering a piece of furniture that has addressed him. The little mouse speaks, he said. The little mouse has read the actual law, Violet said, which is more than you appear to have done. Say it, her wolf said. All of it. We have been cataloging this pack's history for 25 years. We know every word of that codex. We know it better than he does. We know it better than anyone in this room. This is our archive. This is our territory. Article 7, Section 3 forbids foreign influence, Violet said. You're correct about that. But the attached commentary, written by Alpha Lyra the Wise, whose portrait hangs in this hall, defines foreign influence with precision. It is influence that seeks to divide the pack or bring dishonor to the moon. It says nothing about stories. It is implied, Crew said, but his voice had thinned. Is it? She turned to the hall. What of the Lay of the Winter Wolf, the great epic, the one you have every new warrior memorize before their first shift? The hero, Ulrich, falls in love with a human woman. He builds her a house with his own hands instead of conquering the valley he'd promised his war chiefs. Is that not human sentiment? Is that not choosing love as the reason for duty rather than in spite of it? A murmur of recognition moved through the crowd. And our trade agreements, she pressed. We use human steel in our plows, human medicines for our sick, human cartography to map our own territory. Are these cultural degradation? Or are they only dangerous when they arrive in the form of a book, when they might teach something inconvenient, like empathy, like the fact that grief is not weakness, and feeling things does not make you easier to break? She turned back to the hall, her voice dropping into something quieter and more real. These stories are not a threat to who we are. They are a record of who we have always been. They teach that love is not a distraction from strength. It is the reason for it. That a king who reads is a king who understands. That even an alpha can be lonely. That even an omega can be brave. Silence. We said it, her wolf said. All of it. We said it, Violet agreed. Her hands were shaking. Her wolf was very still. Not the silence weaponizer's stillness, something different. Something that had set down every file and every cross-reference and was simply present, in this room, in this moment, making no assessment and no plan. Then Finn, in the back, started to clap, slow and deliberate. Then another person, then another, until the sound filled the hall. Owen stepped forward. She took down his legal argument, his wolf said, in a voice of profound awe. With footnotes, in front of the entire pack. She walked into the room as the accused, and she walked out as, there is no category for what she is. I will need to create several. Elder Crew, Owen said, his voice the voice of a king, not cold, not hard, but clear and final. You have misused our laws, slandered a member of this pack, and manufactured a crisis from a personal vendetta. You are hereby removed from the Council of Elders effective immediately. You will retire to your estates. He paused. I recommend something to read. The laughter that followed was not polite. Owen turned to Violet. He took her hands, both of them, her shaking ones in his steady ones, and held them. His eyes were gold and entirely unhidden. His wolf was simply present in him, visible and calm and certain. "Violet Reed," he said, to the hall, to everyone who had ever walked past her without quite seeing her, "is not a traitor. She is not a weakness. She is my royal advisor on all matters of literature, history, and the things that actually matter." He held her gaze. "She is my mate." The gasp that moved through the hall was followed, a beat later, by approval, warm and full and real. Violet stared at him. Her wolf was completely silent. Not the silence of something filing or assessing or cataloging. The silence of something that had just encountered a fact so large, it had no system for it. It sat in the ruins of every cross-reference she'd ever made, surrounded by the uncategorizable pile, and it did not try to file any of it. It just said, in a voice very small and very certain, "Oh." "Oh," Violet agreed. Then she squeezed his hands back, and Owen's wolf, the calm disaster, the understater of 17 military engagements, the creature that had described its own feelings for months as a small situation becoming a problem, let out a breath that was not calm at all. It was just relieved, profoundly, completely relieved, like something that had been patient for a very long time and had finally been allowed to stop. All previous assessments, it said, were correct. We are home. The days after the feast were quiet. Quiet in the way of a held breath. Aldous' crew retreated to his estates. Owen reorganized the council, 3 new members in seats that had been Crew's domain for a decade, and the meeting minutes, Finn reported via kitchen intelligence, were entirely different in character and apparently a lot shorter. Owen sent a note the morning after the feast. It arrived before the library opened. It read, "Are you all right?" And then, below that, in writing that looked reconsidered, "I should have said more last night. There will be time for more, if you want it." Oh. "He came in person," her wolf observed, "and then sent a note before we woke up. Both. He did both." "He's thorough," Violet agreed. "He is extremely thorough," her wolf said, in a tone that had given up all pretense of being a filing system and was just a wolf who was extremely pleased. She sent back, "I am fine." The speech was adequate. The resignation of Aldous' crew was, however, outstanding. Advisor-level work. V. Reed. She heard, via Finn, that Owen had laughed when he'd read it. That evening he came to the library. Not a note, not a footman. Himself, in plain clothes, at 20 minutes past closing. He knocked on the archive door. She said, "Come in." He came in. He stood in the doorway and looked at her among the maps and the mineral sample jars, with a smudge of catalog dust on her cheek, and her hair coming loose, and her reading spectacles on, which she immediately started to remove. "No," he said quietly. "Please don't." She put them back. He walked in. He looked at the archive the way he'd looked at the annotated Viscount's vow, with genuine attention, noticing what was actually there. The organized chaos of the map table, the color-coded survey jars, the perfect, meticulous order of everything she'd spent years building. "I meant what I said," he said, "last night. All of it." "I know," she said. "I want to keep saying it," he said, "in corridors, at council meetings, in the middle of briefings, which my advisors will object to, but which I will consider a fair use of alpha authority." "That seems administratively questionable," Violet said. "I've been administratively questionable before," he said. "You may recall." "She is smiling," his wolf noted, with something that was entirely off the tactical register and entirely something else. The small smile, the real one, the one that's just for us. "For us," Owen agreed, and something in him that had been displaced for 2 years, shifted quietly back. "Owen," she said. "Violet," he said. "I have been," she said carefully, "humming the pianoforte tune from Chapter 12 of The Midnight Rose for approximately 6 weeks. Finn has noticed. I consider this a significant personal disclosure." "He is going to," her wolf said, and stopped. "I've been requesting books at the library in person," Owen said, "when I could perfectly well send a footman." A pause. "My significant personal disclosure." "Finn told me," Violet said. "Of course he did," Owen said, without any surprise. He reached out slowly, giving her the full length of the reach, and tucked a loose piece of hair behind her ear. His hand rested at her jaw. Warm, entirely steady. Her wolf went very quiet, not the filing quiet. The other kind. "The scent," it said finally, in a small voice. "I've been trying to file it for months. I have approximately 400 uncategorized entries and 17 system failures, and one notation that just says, 'everywhere.' It belongs everywhere, under every heading, in every category." "I know," Violet said. "I think," her wolf said, very carefully, "that it is not a filing problem. I think it is simply home." Like his wolf said. Same word, same category. I think we share the category. Violet looked at Owen's face, at the warmth there, at the gold of his eyes steady and unhidden, at the man who had come to the library himself rather than send a footman, and who had asked for her specifically, and kept coming back, and seen her when she'd spent her whole life being invisible. "You are," Owen said, "the most extraordinary person in this pack." "I'm the librarian," she said. "Yes," he said, "and my mate, and the woman who committed 9 counts of royal bibliographic interference and then dismantled a treason charge with footnotes." His thumb moved lightly against her jaw. "These are not small things." She thought about 25 years of making herself small. She thought about the shield of invisibility, carefully constructed, carefully maintained, and how none of it had actually worked. How he had found her anyway, in a service corridor, holding contraband fiction, the most visible she had ever been. "No," she said, "they're not." He kissed her. Gently, a question with its own answer already in it. And she kissed him back, which settled the question comprehensively. His wolf said nothing at all. It simply was. Present. Certain. The calm disaster that had never actually been calm. It had just been waiting. Done waiting now. Her wolf sat in the center of the most spectacular system failure in the history of her internal organizational architecture, looked at 400 uncategorized files and 17 index crashes, and one entry that just said everywhere, and made a final archival decision. It closed the filing system. "Just for tonight," it said. "We will reorganize tomorrow." It did not sound like it meant tomorrow. 6 months later, the first official meeting of the Royal Book Club was held in the castle library. It was, by any reasonable measure, a disaster. 23 pack members were crammed into the history section, several of whom had brought snacks, creating a crumb situation on the periodicals. Torvin, the blacksmith, whose hands could bend iron and who was apparently a secret reader of considerable passion, was on his feet, pointing at the ceiling. "The Duke," he announced, "is the most self-defeating character in the history of fictional people. One honest conversation. One. That's all it takes. Do you know how many chapters we watch him stare at roses and be sad when he could simply use his words?" "It's called a slow burn," said Bessa, the pack healer, who had claimed the best chair and showed no signs of surrendering it. "The point is the emotional journey, Torvin. The journey is watching 2 intelligent people refuse to talk to each other for 300 pages. I aged during this book." That, said Owen from the front, with the expression of a man who had dramatically underestimated the scope of what he'd agreed to, is actually a very valid point about the function of subtext. Is there a version with more sword fights? Asked old Gregor from the back. No, Gregor. Could there be? It's a romance novel. And romances can't have... Someone is going to say sword fights again, Owen's wolf noted. Sword fights? Gregor finished. Correct, his wolf said. Owen looked at Violet. She was leaning against a bookshelf, professional expression deployed in service of not laughing, losing the battle. She looked like the most interesting person in any room, which she was, which she always had been, which he had known since a service corridor 11 months ago and a hand closed around a wrist, and everything had gone very quiet. He smells like pine, her wolf noted very contentedly, and leather, and the other thing. Still in every category. I have decided that's where it lives. It's not a system failure. It's a feature. She winked at him. His wolf performed no tactical assessment whatsoever. It simply felt what it felt and let him feel it too. He cleared his throat. The potting shed scene, he said, raising his voice. I want to discuss the use of the storm as a structural device. The storm, said Torvin, was obviously contrived. All weather in literature is obviously contrived. That's not the point. Owen's voice carried the precise patience of a man who had read these books carefully and was ready to defend them. The point is what it enables. Both characters can finally stop doing the thing they've been doing for 280 pages. Being idiots, Torvin supplied. Being careful, Owen said, with a slight edge that made several people glance between him and Violet. And choose instead to just be in the same room and not pretend. The book club went quiet for a moment. Bessa looked at Owen, then at Violet, then back. She smiled in the way of someone who has had a theory confirmed. Right, she said. The potting shed, very structurally significant. Very, Finn agreed, from behind a shelf, audibly delighted. Violet pushed off the bookshelf and walked to Owen's side, slipping her hand into his. He squeezed it without looking down, the way you hold something you've stopped being careful with, because you're certain it's not going anywhere. Next month, she told the room, we're reading A Pirate's Pledge. She looked at Torvin. It has sword fights. Torvin sat down with the satisfied air of a man whose concerns have been addressed. The meeting descended, cheerfully and irreversibly, back into chaos. Gregor had follow-up questions about whether the ghost in Chapter 7 was metaphorical. 2 young pack members were in a quiet but intense argument about the Duke's first love interest. Bessa had produced a small jar of something from her healer's bag and was sharing it like they'd been doing this for years. Owen looked at all of it. His pack, loud and arguing and present. In his library, because someone had decided, against all protocol and common sense and reasonable self-preservation, that he should read a book. He looked at Violet. You did this, he said quietly. You signed the decree, she said. I responded to it. 9 counts of bibliographic subterfuge. The decree was egregious. It was, he agreed. He looked at her, this person who had seen him before he'd known he was visible, who had handed him back himself, one brown paper package at a time, and felt something that had no tactical assessment and no filing system and no category, except the one they had apparently decided to share. Violet. Owen. Thank you, he said, for the potting shed chapter. She looked at him with bright, steady eyes and the small, private smile that was only ever for him. Obviously, she said.